Everybody, and thank you for joining us for IAB Europe's second virtual programmatic day of 2023. Delighted to see loads of you have been able to come and join us in person at Google's offices in London, and we'd also like to warmly welcome everyone who's joining us virtually from across Europe, as this event is now being live streamed via YouTube, which is super exciting. My name's Nick Welsh. I head up Programmatic across EMEA at Integral Ad Science. And I'm also currently the chair for the IAB Europe's Programmatic Trading Committee, which is a multi-stakeholder group that aims to increase understanding of the programmatic ecosystem, the impact it's having on digital advertising, and influence the industry via initiatives. And as most of you will know, IAB Europe, IAB Europe is the Association for Digital Marketing and Advertising, and through its membership of national IABs and media technology and marketing companies, its mission is to lead political representation and also promote industry collaboration across Europe. One of the ways that we do this is by bringing people together through events like today's virtual programmatic day. And we can honestly say that the virtual programmatic day is one of the largest virtual events in not just the programmatic industry, but also the digital advertising industry. And unlike many other virtual events, it's not pre-recorded, so I am going to make mistakes. We are live, so thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedules to come and join us. And we'll make sure that we try and reward you with some great content for some fantastic speakers over the next couple of hours. So let's get started and take a look at what we're going to be focusing on today, which is the next slide. As many of you will see, the key focus of today will be AI. But before we get to that, we'll be kicking off the day by revealing key stats and trends from our latest Attitudes to Programmatic Advertising survey. After surveying hundreds of stakeholders on their usage, operations, predictions for programmatic investment, we'll be sharing the key highlights from the report out this week. And we will just pull some of the key salient observations. We won't go into absolutely everything. So please do make sure that you sign up to get the full copy afterwards. And then after my presentation, I'll then be joined by a panel of experts to debate some of the findings. And then we'll move to our headline topic, where we'll be joined by David Black from Google, who deliver a keynote presentation on how to make AI helpful for everyone, maybe in finding the new CEO for OpenAI, who knows. We'll then have two brilliant panel discussions to explore how AI is powering and transforming programmatic advertising. And the first panel will look at buying and trading. And then at the end of the day, we'll look at practical examples on how it's working for attribution and measurement. And I think it's important to note that all the speakers that you're going to be hearing from today are active members of IAB Europe. We're very fortunate to have the very best leaders in our industry taking part in our events and in joining our initiatives. So this is a shameless plug. If you'd like more information or you'd like to get involved yourselves and become part of the Programmatic Trading Committee or any of the other committees that are kind of helping to shape the agenda, then please do sign up. Okay, and speak to a member of the team who are now waving their hands. There we go. Awesome. Okay. We also want to really encourage audience participation throughout the event. So each panel will be followed by a Q&A. So I'm going to make sure that we have enough time to take questions from the audience. So make sure you're thinking about, and don't be shy. There is no such thing as a stupid question. All right. So without further ado, and actually, before we kick off, I should say a huge thank you to the Google team for hosting everyone here in person and connecting everyone virtually via YouTube. So if you show our appreciation for Google. Thank you, Ben and team. All right. So you're going to put up with me for 5 minutes, and then we'll get on to the panel. Thank you, Google. All right. So keynotes is going to be around the attitudes to programmatic advertising. This is in its 9th year, this particular survey, and it has become an industry benchmark in terms of attitudes, adoption, and strategies and how they're evolving. And as you can see, it's a relatively even split. I mean, let's face it, ad tech companies probably the most vocal, so we expect to see a little bit more in terms of respondents coming from the ad tech community. But I'm actually really pleased to see a relatively even split across the buy side and the sell side. And the survey itself attracted over 400 respondents who committed significant volumes of advertising supply and demand. The resources came from advertisers, agencies, publishers, and ad tech vendors across 30 markets, which is pretty impressive, and all with pan-European and global budgets. Some music for my next slide. Okay, so what I'm really keen to highlight here is that these are the 3 biggest observations that we pulled out of the 2023 findings. So we're going to see how these differ from 2022. So firstly, in 2022, we witnessed no growth from the buy side from the 2021 survey. So it's really exciting to see actual resilience coming through programmatic investment in 2023. Quality of media has replaced cost as the biggest barrier to future investment, which again, we'll dig into some of the why that might be the case and maybe some of the irony behind that. And latterly, a surge in the use of first party, which isn't perhaps too controversial, but what might be seen as controversial is we've seen a surge in the use of third party data through 2023. Okay, double-digit growth in programmatic investment. So according to the recently released ADX benchmark 2022, released in June 2023, the European digital ad market was valued at 86 billion and is continuing to be programmatic first. And here we can see like 58% of non-social spend and 53% of video is now transacted programmatically, despite facing unprecedented macroeconomic and geopolitical challenges that we've witnessed during this period, such as the war in Ukraine, rising inflation. Digital advertising market demonstrated exceptional resilience with increases in programmatic up by 14%. Okay, this year's Attitudes to Programmatic survey further highlights this trend, indicating that the industry has picked itself back up. Small investment declines we witnessed in 2020, well, coming back from the small investment declines we saw in 2022. So the year, overall, programmatic investment was slightly down compared to 2021. Okay, and I think the key observation here is really the programmatic increasing from the buy side, where over 40, I think it was 54% of those surveyed on the buy side said 41% of their display campaigns were bought programmatically. I'm actually quite surprised by that. I would have thought that it would have been an awful lot higher than that. And then on the right, nearly a third said over 80% of their display campaigns were now bought programmatically. So behind that investment, what are the key drivers, but also what are the key barriers for that programmatic investment? And looking at the barriers to programmatic adoption, it's interesting to see that whilst in 2022, the buy-side positioned costs as their number one barrier, there's been a big shift towards questioning the quality of media and the political and economic environment, which is probably not that surprising, right, given what we saw through Q1 and Q2. And 35% state the quality of media, which also includes brand fraud, brand safety, as their number one barrier. Which again is super surprising if you think about how sophisticated, shameless plug, Integral Ad Science, verification technology is in our ecosystem, enabling advertisers to actually navigate complex open marketplace with security. So I was quite surprised by that observation. And then, this is a clear sign that the industry needs to kind of better educate the buy side, businesses like ourselves, on how they can ensure brand safe and trusted environments for their ad campaigns. The key concerns from publishers was on the current political and economic environment, which again, probably not that surprising given if we think about premium journalism and the responsibility some of these big brands have in covering what are quite complex and controversial and somewhat unsettling topics, still need to monetize that content. So as a publisher, obviously having concerns about how the current geopolitical situation might impact revenues. And then lastly, sustainability, highlighted mainly by the agencies as a barrier to future investment. Okay, so operational efficiencies are the key driver for buying programmatic, which is not that surprising. Operational efficiencies, and then I'm just going to highlight the cost efficiencies at the bottom. Now, cost efficiencies in 2022 were a key barrier, and now they've become a key driver. So we wanted to buy media for less, and as we saw in the previous slide, now we're concerned about the quality of the media. So is there a direct relationship between the price point at which we want to buy and now the concerns of the quality of the media that we're actually buying? So let's discuss, we'll dig into that a little bit in the panel, I hope. Okay, and this was quite a surprising find for me. So a surge in the use of first and third-party data. Not at all surprised by there being a surge in the use of first-party data, given GDPR, given the concerns around how consent is collected, and the deprecation of the cookies. Absolutely not surprised by that. I was, however, surprised to see that there was a surge in the use of third-party data. In 2021 and 2022, we saw a significant drop in the number of advertisers and agencies using first-party data. And alongside this, we also saw, unsurprisingly, a drop in the use of third-party data and an increase in second-party data. Is everyone familiar with second-party data as a term? So second-party data being a publisher's data which is then sold onto the buy side. So in 2023, despite the looming deprecation of the third-party cookie, there has been an increase in third-party data usage. And this might suggest that delays in Chrome's deprecation of the third-party cookies led to complacency, which may be compounded by advertisers maintaining existing KPIs such as clicks and conversions to measure success, i.e. The KPIs haven't changed with the times, and as long as the cookie still exists, then advertisers are still holding agencies accountable to the same KPIs will continue to use third-party cookie. Does this mean that we're going to be actually delaying our readiness? And are we going to see a swing in the early part of next year? Not at all a shocking slide. What solutions are the industry looking at to find new audiences? 81% of agencies plan to leverage first-party data, and 86% of publishers are looking at contextual targeting, with 66% of advertisers looking at using contextual targeting as well. So, no questions around privacy by design. I think this is a reflection of the deprecation of the cookie, but actual practice, as we look back at this slide again, and the use of third-party data, doesn't really reflect the intent. So, what is the future for programmatic? It now gives me, and what do our experts think? And what more trends and insights to come? And the full report is going to be out on Thursday, so please make a note of the IAB URL and get on there and download it. And now I'm going to be joined by some real industry experts to debate some of these findings. So if you want to come up and join me. Chairs. I sat down in time to the music.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you for coming along and joining us to debate some of those findings. I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves, but before I do, I want to tell me your observation in terms of the major drivers behind the growth of programmatic advertising as part of your introduction. So, Ferran, over to you first because you're closest to me.
Sure.
Do these results resonate with you? Those drivers, do they resonate with you? Are you seeing something different?
No, they do.
And introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, I'm Ferran. I take care of DSP relationships in Southern Europe at Samsung Ads. It's nice to meet you all. And today I'll try to bring my connected TV background. I've been in connected TV the last 7 years. And these results do resonate to me. Actually, I like the slide where you see country by country, how they differ as well. You see markets like Spain, where I'm from, it's only like 37% adoption, but the UK is way forward in that sense. But the drivers seem to be the same in all these markets and cost efficiencies and...
Yeah, I don't know if anyone noticed on the slide, but I think it was, for the UK specifically, it was like 83% of display was now traded programmatically, which doesn't surprise me, but I guess across some other markets that might come across as quite surprising.
Yeah, in Southern Europe it's a bit less, and it's also more programmatic guaranteed as well. So at least on CTV.
Okay. And Nikki?
Hi, I'm Nikki. I'm Senior Director of Ad Solutions at Programmatic for EMEA, working on SSP side. I think that the results resonated well with me and what we're seeing. I think undoubtedly the past few years have been unpredictable in terms of planning for brands, and buyers have had to be really agile in the way that they're delivering campaigns, and programmatic is absolutely built for that. And I think that's where we've seen the resulting growth. The fact that you can be agile, you can optimize towards performance in real time at a point where budgets are the same or slimmer is really very important, and I think that's where it's thriving.
And lastly but not least, Benjamin.
Hi, so I oversee products at Triton. I do agree that it's growing. I actually have some stats related to audio. So we've seen that in the last 2 months, there was a 62% growth in Europe versus 12% in the US. So the growth is quite solid in Europe. We're seeing that the shopping, automotive, luxury business are the top buyers categories, trying to hit music, news, and politics, then followed by law, government, home and garden as what has grown quite strongly here. But we've added about 1,200 brands in the marketplace this year compared to the previous one. So audio is doing well.
Awesome. So we talked about the drivers, we talked about efficiencies, obvious efficiencies. One of the kind of observations that we saw quite early on there was that there's been a flip. So in 2022, we were talking cost as being a barrier to entry in programmatic, and that's now been swapped out by concerns around the quality of media that's being bought. Can you kind of dig into that a little bit, especially from a CTV perspective, right? Because it's exciting because all of a sudden I can reach maybe a light TV viewer in a TV viewing experience, but it's going to be cheaper than my kind of linear broadcast buy. But I don't really know what I'm buying. And so concerns around quality. I mean, tell me a little bit.
Yeah, it's something we saw in the report and we've heard in market as well, that advertisers might have this concern. And indeed, you mentioned trackers before. Trackers could help there. But also, I think sometimes we forget the programmatic is only the way to buy, but we have to know the how, the what we buy. And that's where the relationship with the publishers, with your tech vendors is very important to make sure go beyond the report, go beyond the dashboard and see where's the placement, how premium it is, especially in connected TV, which is a big high CPMs, right? So it's an important investment for the final advertiser.
So transparency.
Inventory discoverability as well. Go beyond the actual dashboard and talk to your supplier of inventory.
Okay. And talking about talk to your supplier of inventory. How is Programmatic kind of helping advertisers navigate those concerns around quality?
Yeah, I thought the results on that were really interesting as well, where now we're looking at a call out for kind of quality supply. We're hearing that a lot from our partners as well. That's why we're seeing the rise of SPO, where people want to understand more where their money's going, what they're actually buying, that the environments are congruent with their kind of their brand goals. We are very consultative with the publishers that we work with. We take responsible investment very seriously. There's been a lot of talk in market recently about MFAs, or made for advertising environments. At Programmatic, we've made the move to say we won't support those going forward, because we feel that it's not the best experience for the viewer. It's not the type of environment that we get a lot of demand from our partners, and also there are challenges potentially around the quality of the content and whether it's delivering truthful claims or misinformation. They also reportedly emit more carbon than the average, so around 27% above the average carbon emissions. So it's not particularly great for people or planet. And there's so many more quality environments that brands can invest in and buyers can access through the platform that we can make available, and we do make available. And I think that's really important.
So in audio, in terms of brand safety, the challenge, as we always have in audio, is we're a newcomer, and there's no visual in audio. So there's a lot of the technology that is not necessarily applicable out of the gate. So there's been a lot of investment by different companies building brand safety inside podcasts, mostly because the broadcast industry is already regulated by law. You need to have a license. So that is being managed by the different broadcasting organizations across all countries. But for podcasts where that is not applicable, this is where you need to do semantic extraction, and then you need AI, which is the team of the day, to be able to extract what is being said, then try to map that against different type of scoring mechanism. It's still early stage. The tech lab is trying to figure out how to make sure this is compatible, because again, it's not something you can have something like a bot parsing a page and reporting back to the DSP, so it requires a bit more connecting middleware. So we're getting there. So there's and then, as you know, in podcasts, especially when you look at the top podcasts, Joe Rogan, there's a lot of stuff that you may not want to be associated with when you're a brand. So a lot of the big podcasts could be not necessarily what big brands are expecting. So that's slowing down a bit, though the solutions are getting there. The other big challenge in audio, for which we specifically at Triton working on, is bringing broadcast inventory for programmatic trading. And when I say broadcast, it's not the streaming, it's literally what is on the airwaves, to be able to do spot replacement in real time. So this is the next frontier that will unleash even more value in the audio space.
So it'd be churlish not to mention AI. In fact, you both kind of skirted on AI just then, and you referenced semantics and natural language processing. I mean, that's a form of artificial intelligence, and there have been DSPs and SSPs that have been operating with machine learning for some time as well. So I think it's probably, we underestimate how much artificial intelligence is being used in our industry today. And I think sometimes when we think about AI, we're really just thinking about what's in the hype at the moment, which is generative AI, which is huge. And on that topic of generative AI, Nikki, you just touched on MFA. Are we going to see? Are we not in a position where actually we're going to see it much easier for businesses to create content purely made for advertising? And is there an argument that actually, if the audience is engaged, that what's to say that content isn't, quality? If quality is based upon how the user's engaging.
I think it's definitely a conversation, but it depends on what regulations that content is adhering to. So
Yeah.
if you think about some of the fantastic environments that we're able to work with, news titles, for example, and the very high standards that they hold themselves to, and with industry bodies, but also within those organisations and the editor having the final say. You know, it's a structure that is well known and has been working for a very long time, and constantly being reviewed, of course. But you would hope that those additional lines of content would also be adhering to a similar kind of structure and benchmark of quality.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you've got businesses that help newspapers also extend their reach by creating even more new pieces of content using artificial intelligence. So again, it's like, how do we? I think it's a new era, isn't it? It's kind of definitely, we don't have all the answers around it. It's a kind of a movable feast. 100% agree, though, that we need to have some measures in place to help people navigate it.
Especially when sustainability was one of the concerns, in the report as well, one of the barriers to more adoption. And that's a concern in display, but also on connected TV. And you can see the publishers are starting looking at podded requests for ad break. You know, usually back in a few months ago, they were sending one request for each of the ads within an ad break, and now we can just send a request for all the whole ad break, which actually improves the carbon footprint much a lot.
And so are we seeing like the reduction in the number of businesses that we buy from as a potential answer to sustainability then, or buying sustainably?
It shouldn't. It's actually what is changing is the way that the requests are sent to the SPs, and basically it's more efficient. Instead of sending 8 requests for 8 ads in an ad break, we just send one that includes the 8. So it shouldn't impact the amount of advertisers.
Okay.
We should, though, apply the right tools to solve the problem, because funny enough, the supply path optimization desire of some agencies at the moment in the audio space creates more hops, because they will send, let's say, a vast tag that bypasses, let's say, the SSP to go straight in the ad server, but then they're still getting requests from the SSP, which is connected to their DSP of choice. And sometimes there's so many systems that are calling the same inventory that we need to call back the buyer saying, okay, what do you want to do? Because we'll optimize it with the least amount of connection possible, but it's not by you sending a vast tag that is helping. It actually creates more auction and more exposure of the same inventory. So I think the two parties have to really work closely to make sure, like, are we trying to just add another layer versus using what is already in place and reduce the amount of requests, to your point, to have one auction that can have like multiple bids from, let's say, the same agency that is representing multiple brands. And if they have a deal, they can try to auction everything at once, rather than send a bunch of different tags that are just multiplying the number of requests and then boiling the ocean at the end.
And I think it is about simplifying it. So as you say with SPO, it's working with fewer, better partners, essentially, making sure you've got the most direct route to that supply. There are lots of different levers that you can pull in programmatic to have like a positive effect. So we work with a party that streams content into the ad player, and that helps to suppress the carbon emissions there. You can explore efficiencies when it comes to targeting, so thinking about maybe implementing targeting on SSP side as well. And then you get good uplifts in performance often on that too. So many different avenues to explore, and I think it's an open conversation that as an industry we're definitely having. I think the results that we saw in the research as well were really interesting around, that it is top of mind when sustainability is a topic. There's some fantastic work that's being done within our industry already to do test and learn, as well as obviously conversation and exploratory work. And I would call out some of the excellent work that's being done at Group M. So they've publicly expressed their ambition to be net zero by 2030. they're working hard to find solutions through the programmatic supply chain and being very generous in sharing those findings with their peers in industry through the IAB Sustainability Committee as well, because I think they, like many of us in this room, understand that the challenge is vast, but actually in working together we have a better chance of solving that and coming up with innovation, or as you say, using what we already have, but through a new lens to actually drive towards those goals.
And on that note, we're also starting to see agencies start to build their own kind of premium marketplaces or curated marketplaces by partnering up with a limited number of SSPs than they would have done historically. And then on the other side, we've got advertisers DSPs that are wanting to do the same with the publishers. So how do you see that playing out? How do you see the kind of this move to the buy side by the SSPs and a move from I'm going to get confused now. Buy sides to the publishers, the DSPs to the publishers, and the SSPs to the advertisers. How do you see that playing out?
When it comes to sustainability?
Well, when it comes to, I guess, reducing the supply path, which has an impact on sustainability, but how do you see that playing out in terms of the traditional kind of way media is bought programmatically, if you can say traditional?
I think again, it comes down to the results and the efficiency. It's an overarching conversation across a number of different points of consideration. If we're thinking about driving growth in the programmatic landscape, I think if we can find ways of finding more quality supply, making it more sustainable, there will be lots of investment regardless of the route, because it will become progressively a more efficient and appealing way of delivering targeted advertising campaigns at scale.
And it might also help with the other barrier, the quality of inventory concerns from the advertiser side, so that could help as well.
If it's done in collaboration, it works. I think my point earlier is to avoid trying to short circuit what's already in place. So if like a buyer wants to use an SSP to curate content, instead of issuing new tags, we can just use the already existing OpenRTB connection. It avoids doubling the traffic. So that's where like collaboration is needed between the different tech vendors, and for the agency to understand that there's different ways to execute whatever they have in mind, and we need to sit down to figure out what is taking the least amount of energy in terms of achieving it while following the best practice. Because what I've seen as a problem is if you want to, let's say, create, again in audio because that's what we do, but if you're trying to do header bidding that does not really exist in audio, so basically you try to short circuit the flow, then you may not be able to recognize your audience, because you may be using a DSP that is expecting, let's say, a mobile ad ID, but you're buying podcasts, which is distributed via RSS. I'm sorry, it's a bit technical, but it won't send you a mobile ad ID. So at the end, you're not achieving what you want. Whereas if you're working in the right order with the right pipes, there's a way to make sure that we can work for the audience or the cohort to match the expectation of the agencies. That's why it requires collaboration across the value chain, not trying to bypass all of the players, because otherwise you don't have the people that have to do the piping. You cannot bypass the pipes. You have to work with the pipes in place.
And I think supporting media, I've got my 5 minutes, so I'm going to go to questions in a minute. In fact, I'll go to questions in a minute. I just want to make kind of one observation. We want to buy more responsibly. We want to collaborate to buy in a more sustainable way. But let's not forget, we still are being held to account by marketeers and their agencies, because at the end of the day, we're in the advertising game and we're wanting to kind of sell products and services to audiences. And cookies are going away. IDs are of sort that we're used to are also going away. And one of the observations was that actually there's been a surge in the use of third-party data. So the KPIs that the advertisers and the agencies, and as a consequence, the agencies are holding us to account on, are still kind of traditional performance metrics that rely on traditional measurement and attribution. So what's going to happen when the cookies kind of go away? How are we going to buy efficiently, sustainably, and reach the audiences we want to reach, and measure the audiences or measure the success of those campaigns?
So I can answer for the connected TV space if you want. If you think about a TV, it's always been like a branding environment, like big screen, probably the biggest screen of the house sometimes. So in that sense, like the branding KPIs of viewability and VCR, they shouldn't go away. Mm-hmm. They shouldn't be affected. And when it comes to data, it's, as it is branding, it's less about first party and third party. In our case, for example, you mentioned before second party data. Samsung gets, thanks to the consent of some of the TVs, we can try to help advertisers dive into CTV with second party data and help them bridge the traditional TV and with the connected TV space.
Go ahead.
I would agree with you on what you just said there, and I think branding metrics will definitely remain. I think there's a lot of work as well that's being done in our industry around attention and what attention means. That's becoming a bigger concern when it comes to measurement. There's a lot of exciting opportunity coming up with first-party data, working with publishers closely as well to understand what they can offer to buyers when it comes to optimising campaign with the rich amount of information that they have. There's a lot of opportunity, but I suppose it's around how is that communicated to buyers, how accessible is that, what are the proof points. There's always going to be work done or to be done on that.
So I think the premise that everyone is targetable with an identifier is actually not true, because not everyone is online with the same type of behavior. So, and media has been traded, advertising has been in existence for ages, even before internet, shockingly. And I think with using AI, you could easily build model that already exists that can prove that you can target with a mix of audience targeting and contextual targeting and have the KPI in place. All of those models exist. I think, unfortunately, the ad tech 1.0 is still hooked on the drug of thinking that third-party cookie is the panacea that solves all problems. But this will disappear, and those models that already exist will finally be in the spotlight. And I think everything will be fine, probably even better, because you're narrowing your scope to what you can recognize, meaning you're over-indexing against Chrome, for instance.
Brilliant. We've got literally 2 minutes for questions to the panel. We've got any questions? Don't be shy. We've got a microphone. Brilliant.
Hi, Ben. I just wanted to ask on that last point, can you give some examples of what those more traditional methods that maybe have existed, where the spotlight will get to when third-party cookies goes away?
Yeah, it's basically all of the surveys or recall. Or you could use like traditional point of sale. There's different things. The point is you will have a subset of users that you use as the seed of a model that will project the performance across the rest of the buy. So there's different type of methodologies, but that works fine.
I think we're at time, so I'm going to wrap up there. But we have a round of applause for the panel. Thank you so much for sharing your insight into programmatic. Awesome. Okay, now it's time to take a deep dive into our focus area of AI. And I'm delighted to introduce David Black, who's the Senior Director and Managing Director of Technology, Media and Telecoms and Apps at Google UK. Over to you, David.
Hello, and thank you all for joining us today. So I'm David Black, as you've heard, I'm Senior Director for Google in the UK. And I'm going to talk a bit about AI to lead you into your sessions after the coffee break, which comes straight after me. And so very excited to talk about AI and what it means for you, and very excited to discuss AI and what it means for the programmatic landscape. And so who can still remember the days when the internet used to make a noise? Can anyone remember? I'd say probably about 50% of us can remember the days of having to physically plug in the internet. And that wasn't that long ago. That was just about 25 years ago. Who can remember getting their first smartphone? Give us a quick show of hands. And so I'd say probably like 90% of us can still remember getting their first smartphone. You think about kind of how transformative that's been to the way that you spend your time. First being able to not just go online, but being able to use the internet when you want and where you want it. And then being able to do that on mobile. The first smartphone, our first iPhone was out in 2007, so a bit over 15 years ago. We think that AI is the next big shift and will be as fundamental to the way that we do marketing and the way that we behave as consumers as the growth of the internet and then the growth of mobile. So it's a really exciting time, but it's also a really important time to tap into that opportunity, just like this industry's always done with internet and then with mobile, and to really hone your skills, because the future of programmatic and the future of marketing is AI powered. And that's such an opportunity for us all as individuals too. So AI is the next big shift. And so we've really taken that to heart at Google. We said back in 2016, we'd be an AI-first company. Sundar, our CEO, stood on stage and talked about everything we do being AI-first. And so I'll share a little bit about our own approach, and I'll share a bit about what I think that means for the whole of the industry. But the starting point has actually been investing in incredible AI research and innovations. And again, it's a pleasure to host so many of you in person here in London, because this is a huge AI development hub for us, for the world. So Google DeepMind, our AI research and development unit, was founded just down the road. And so here in London, we've got a fantastic programmatic industry. And of course, talking at the IAB Europe Programmatic Conference all over Europe, there's a phenomenal AI research development industry going on. So such a lot of opportunity for us all. So we've really been investing first in getting some of the foundational technologies right. And so many of the innovations that you see around the whole of the industries are research papers that we've written and created or new products that we're launching. And we really believe in taking an approach which is as open as possible. And so many of those research papers we publish and many of the technologies that you now see being used around the tech industry and around the programmatic industry have been started at Google and at DeepMind. And we're really proud to partner on so many of those innovations. And we're also really proud of our own innovation roadmap here. And our approach, and I think this is a really good kind of mantra to take as you think about what you do in AI, in your own organizations, in your own teams, and for yourselves as individuals, is three things. It's be bold, it's be responsible, and it's to go together. Because through partnership, we can make such good progress in a way that's very bold and very responsible, but also together as an industry. And so I think that's a real opportunity. And so I'll take the first of those, being very bold. And I'll start kind of at society, and then I'll talk a bit about what that means in terms of products and programmatic, and then I'll talk about maybe what it means that we can all do together. And so just starting really bigger picture, I just think AI is going to make such an amazing difference to society. So some of the research and development that AI is now allowing, even beyond our industry, is incredible. So an example of that, my dad has been losing his sight. His condition is easy to treat, but really hard to diagnose. And so we've partnered with Moorfields, which is a big eye hospital just down the road in London, working with consultants to help to see whether we can do diagnosis better. And we found that if you show two different doctors the same eye scan, you get a different diagnosis 20% of the time. And in fact, we found if you show the same doctor the same eye scan, but at two different times of the week, you get a different diagnosis about 20% of the time. So by using AI, we can really help doctors and consultants to find that condition and give a proposed diagnosis. And so by doing that, we can help to make sure that those diagnoses are better and more accurate. And so that doesn't mean that takes away work from doctors. What it means is my dad can still go in and sit in front of a consultant, but his work has been informed by AI. He can see the exact area that there might be an issue in those billions of pixels. He can see the exact recommendation that the AI gives, but then can zoom in on it and validate that themselves, and then have the right discussion with my dad. How incredible is that? We're now doing amazing work on that in breast cancer and in other forms of cancer to also be able to home in on some of those kind of needle in a haystack problems, and by doing that, to diagnose those conditions earlier. So I tell you that story first because I think it's an amazing application of AI and a really good example of being really bold. But also I think it's a really important analogy for the whole of our industry, where we're working on huge campaigns at such significant scale, but we're also trying to make them really personal to individuals to reach the right audience with the right campaign at the right time. AI can help us all to do that better and can help us all to be better in our work and in our jobs. And that's got to be able to make a difference as we add even more value, just like that consultant is going to be able to in discussions with somebody like my dad. So AI is going to make a real difference to society. And we're also thinking really hard about how do we build AI into our products, into every product that we have, to make it AI first and AI powered. And by doing that, it's going to be so much better. Can anyone still remember using a physical map to navigate? Just do a quick show of hands. I'd say about 2/3 of us in the room can still remember looking at a physical map to navigate. So one of the things I think is amazing about Google Maps is it hasn't just helped you to get to your destination faster, it's reduced the number of arguments about how to get to the destination, because it could just do that for you, and you now no longer have to worry about getting to your destination. And so again, you can perhaps see the analogy there to the work that we all do every day. I think this is AI is going to be a really good kind of wayfinder to help us all to navigate our work better. But the next generations of Google Maps are going to be even better. So this is a new product that we're working on called Immersive View. And so now you don't just get to see the map, you can see what the destination looks like. And so you can see potentially the route that you can take, but maybe you want to know what's it going to look like when I get there. And so then you can see an entire fly through that's used AI and a whole load of photos to then be able to create a 3D model of the area that you're going to that you can then zoom around to see what your route is going to look like. And then it can even do things like overlay onto it what will be the weather at the time that you get there. So you can see it there getting a little bit warmer and then perhaps starting to rain. So you can get a real idea of where it is that you're going and what you can do. And so the power of AI to just make the whole experience that users have of the internet better is going to be phenomenal. But again, back to my analogy, I think it's all going to help us also to navigate our work even better every day. And so we're thinking really hard about how do we build AI into every product that we have. And as we do that, of course, as I've shown, be really bold, but also be really responsible. And so as you use AI in your own work, think about that responsibility that you have to your users too. And so you can see there our innovation principles around AI as we launch all of our new products. And I love the first one, be socially beneficial. Let's make sure that we all use this for the good of society. And as you can see, some really important principles there. Avoiding creating or reinforcing unfair biases, safety first, and I'd say to the whole of the kind of programmatic industry in a way that's privacy safe and user-centered has to be the right way of approaching this. So that's exactly what we're doing, and I'd urge you all to do exactly that. So it's number 5 there, incorporate privacy design principles. And of course, as we all use AI more in our work, users will have lots of questions too. As generative AI, being able to generate whole images or pieces of text using AI, people will wonder, is this information accurate? And so we're thinking really hard about that responsibility too, for example, with fact-checking. And so for any publishers in the room, I know this will be important to you, but being able to see, for example, for any given photo, being able to click on it, being able to find the source of that information, being able to look up about that image to see where it was first created, and then be able to see where it has been used. Is that from a credible and reliable news source? Or is that something that a user has generated? being able to show that provenance is going to be really critical. So using AI to help fact check, to make sure that authoritative information gets elevated, to make sure the whole of the publisher ecosystem remains really sound and important. And so we've talked about being bold. I've talked about being responsible, but critically, this is about what we all do in AI together. So I really think our AI technology and the work that everybody in this room does comes together as an incredible business multiplier to help to do the things that you want to do even better and even faster as the AI learns from you, but also we all learn from the AI. And that's going to be really important in the programmatic industry because, of course, we know that consumer journeys are getting more and more complicated all the time. And you can see that in some of the latest research data. 61% of shoppers over a 2-day period are using 5 or more channels. Consumer buying processes are complicated, they're squiggly, they're all over the internet, they're multiple channels. And so finding ways to kind of navigate that and fulfill what we need to do as marketers and ad tech professionals, which is to find the right user with the right message at the right time, is really critical. And that can be powered better by AI. And so again, we're putting a huge focus into AI-powered campaigns to be able to use AI to help to find the right users, to be able to give them the right message, to be able to do that at the right moment, and then using AI to do that really smartly and efficiently. And so in the panel after the coffee break, I know my colleague Ben is going to talk a bit about some of the incredible innovations that we're working on there to help make that available programmatically. And as we do that, the results that we keep on seeing are getting better and better all the time. And so AI adoption has been growing. And so AI adoption is now 2.5 times bigger in 2022 than it was in 2017. So incredible progress, but also more to do. So really think in your organization, are you using AI tools? And as a programmatic professional, how do you hone your AI skills? And then it works incredibly well. So 70%, according to McKinsey, of AI adopters are seeing revenue increases, and 28% of AI adopters are seeing cost reductions. So it drives more growth and does it more efficiently. And so I'd urge everybody to tap into the AI opportunity. And so the final thought I'd leave you with as you do that is to say, I know people worry a lot about, am I competing with AI? And I don't think that's the right way of thinking about it. I'd say kind of to the spirit of bold, responsible, and together, embrace these amazing technologies that are going to do such good for the world and such amazing work in our industry. And know that you're not competing with that technology. You're competing with other marketers who are already using that technology. And the results that they're getting are incredible. As I really think, what is your marketing objective or what is your campaign objective? How can you test and learn using AI? And then how do you measure and scale the results you're getting? And if you take that approach, start with the objective, test and learn, and measure and scale, you will be in amazing shape. We're here to help for anything that we can. And so thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I think we're going to a coffee break next, and looking forward to the discussion in the panel after the break. Thank you all.
Thank you, David, for a fascinating look into how AI has evolved over the last few years. So yeah, we are going to break for a coffee break now. But if everyone can kind of come back to their seats for about 3:20, it'd be fantastic. Let's get stuck back into the learning, more about how AI is helping the programmatic industry by kicking off panel 2. With the help of their always knowledgeable moderator, Sarah Vincent, from Managing Director of UK and Ireland for Index Exchange. And the panellists will explore the impact and effectiveness of AI on programmatic buying and trading. And they'll discuss and give practical examples on key elements such as data targeting, auction mechanics, and management. So, over to you.
thank you for the welcome, Nick, and it's lovely to be here, and again to Google for hosting in this amazing venue. It's super cool. I'm very excited to be here today to host a panel about the impact and effectiveness of AI as it relates to really today's practices in programmatic buying. We heard earlier that we think about AI as quite new, but it has been around in our industry for quite some time, probably known more as machine learning. But today we're going to explore a bit more about what real-life applications we're seeing and some learnings from that. So very excited to welcome our panel. We'll do a quick round of intros. I've just been introduced, so you know who I am, but I'll pass over to you, Rob.
Hi everyone, I'm Rob Georgeson, Head of Programmatic at Zenith UK. Proud to say the only agency representation today, so try and give a good flavour from that account.
Yeah, hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Sarah Sihelnik. I'm the country director for the DACH region at Quantcast. We are an ad tech company, and we leverage AI and machine learning since day one, primarily for audience analytics and programmatic buying, so we are also a DSP.
Hello everyone, my name is Matthew Rausch. I'm the CEO and co-founder of ID5. We're an identity company, and our job is to process signals on about 7 billion devices every month. So you can imagine the volume of data that we handle and how we're using AI and machine learning to help us do that.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura Carstens. I'm Director of Product Marketing at Integral Ad Science. So we're a measurement and optimization company focused on driving superior results for advertisers, agencies, and publishers.
Thank you very much and welcome. So first question is around data targeting and really exploring about how AI is impacting data targeting today, enabling more personalization, and of course obviously return on investment in that respect. Sarah, if I start with you, can you give us a perspective on that from your stance within Quantcast?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the whole point of using AI, right, is to make things easier, to simplify repetitive tasks and so on, and bring in automation. And when it comes to data targeting, I mean, our world out there is just keeps getting more complex, and the amounts of data that's out there that is available to us as well. And when we bring it back to marketing, the customer journey just keeps getting more complex. You know, we're all using more devices, consuming things on more devices, and are targetable across multiple devices. So if you add all this up, and also who is your typical customer, it's very difficult. It becomes very difficult nowadays to define that. So the amount of data that you have to process is increasing, and that's where AI comes into place. And of course, the quality of data that you're using is really important, that you use for your machine to learn. And for example, we at Quantcast believe in really the power of first-party data that compared to third-party data is more real-time and reflects quicker of the behavioral pattern of your audience. And that's where, for example, you can really leverage AI analyzing huge amounts of data, first-party data in real time to then action on that.
Yeah, I think it's, having read a bit around this subject as well and prep for the panel, but one of the huge benefits of AI is that aggregation of that huge amount of data, really, really big data that will only enhance and optimize the performance, but it's just so tricky to do that as a manual, like as a person today. So it's great to hear that that's aligned with you. Laura, what about your side?
Yeah, so I think that with AI and programmatic, as we've all talked about, it's been part of the programmatic landscape for a while now. So I think companies like IAS are using AI already in terms of data targeting. So you're allowed to go, a step further than maybe keywords or URL lists and actually understand the context of a page, the brand safety, suitability, and then using natural language processing. So AI technology that reads a page like a human to understand sentiment, and then going into emotion. So understanding like humor versus love versus sadness versus hate. They're all really powerful tools for marketers to be targeting at a much more granular and personalized level. Again, going a step further than those keywords or URL lists. So I think that AI in programmatic targeting has been, a great step forward.
Okay. Oh, Matthew.
Well, I mean, bidding is targeting, and bidding is about like ingesting signals and understanding which one matter for a particular impression in terms of pricing, in terms of creative choices. And what AI gives us the ability to do is get more of those signals processed in real time and used to respond with again, the right price and the right ad, basically, right? And so if you have like a chance to say yes or no, a chance to say like blue or red, it's very limited, right? Now with the processing capability that we have with artificial intelligence, we can take a lot more of those signals into account. Context, sentiment, weather forecasts, time of the day, like et cetera, and the list is endless. And so it's about this ability to ingest more signals and to process more signals in the very small time we have to respond, and build models that can take into account all of those variables rather than just one to say yes or no on one given data point. So that's really, I think, the game-changing factor here is the diversity of signal we can ingest to process bidding decisions and targeting decisions.
Yeah. And Rob, do you agree with that?
Yeah, certainly, but I guess...
The only agency person here?
Yeah, why not? Yeah. I think it's difficult to not talk about like data and targeting in AI without talking about like privacy. Certainly so.
Already?
Yeah, already. It's like bundled together in my mind, like they're so intertwined that I just can't pick them apart. And if you think like why programmatic has been on media plans, we've been executing so much of it that way for so long, you know, from Nick's programmatic attitudes study, like more and more is getting activated programmatically. Why? Well, it's the ability to use precision targeting. But as we know, next year that's going to diminish quite a lot. You're probably going to need Matthew's identity techniques in order to help you out. But AI is going to help us interpret signals that we weren't using before to inform targeting about understanding, I guess, attributes and online behaviors. But also I see first-party data, as you said, Sarah, that's going to become more important from like a seed audience perspective, using that to enable you to scale up and prospect new users. Because really, as proponents of programmatic, like addressability is like the foundation of what we have. And with next year coming, learn as much as you can as an agency person working across lots of different clients, lots of different platforms. You really have to be on top of it for next year. AI is a complex space, and you've got to understand it as best you can and communicate that to your clients.
Yeah. I think the understanding as best you can is where the challenge comes in. It's obviously very complicated, ever-changing, but it feels like there's very much an openness in the industry to understand it, to work together, to collaborate, to bring it to the fore in the beneficial capacity that it can be. Moving on to auction mechanics, do you have examples, and Rob, I'll start with you, on how AI has helped inform bidding strategies and optimizing budgets?
Yeah, I mean, I'll try not to do a history lesson here, but I mean, in programmatic, if you think about like auction mechanics specifically, the change that we've had over the last 10 years or so couldn't be any more, couldn't be any bigger. 10 years ago, we were all sitting there putting in our fixed bids into platforms, expecting a second price auction, and you're going to win your impression at incrementally more than the second highest bidder. And it required a lot of intensive optimization, pulling reports. I can tell you I was there doing it. It was boring. But we all did it together, so it was fine. And it was a science and an art, let's say. And then in comes header bidding. Soon after, it follows first price auctions, bid shading techniques on both the sell and buy side. And the DSPs had to figure out ways to drive those efficiencies that you're suddenly maybe not getting because you're paying that first price. And DSPs developed like automating bidding strategies, whether that's towards like things like CPA, CPC, and I guess for the publishers, it was probably such a strange change for them of that uniformity of like demand. Suddenly, advertisers optimizing towards completely different objectives. And I guess step forward today, all that machine learning is kind of like table stakes now. Like you're optimizing towards those outcomes like consistently in DSPs. Really now, I guess what we're talking about is custom bidding solutions. So, identifying a metric from an effectiveness point of view that might sit outside of your traditional in-platform DSP metrics, building out, a custom algorithm, configuring it against this, KPI being it. Someone mentioned attention before. That's obviously an important area. DSPs haven't quite ingested those signals yet, and it's a means to, as a buyer, like adding value for your client that otherwise you wouldn't get. So it's not easy. You've got to have that expertise in-house embedded in your buying team. But yeah, you're extracting much more value than you probably would be otherwise.
That was an amazing lesson. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And yeah, just to add from the index side, so it was mentioned earlier that machine learning is not a new thing, and that we have been working with it for years, multiple years, let's say. So from our side, in terms of like auction mechanics, we are applying, to give you an example, like we're applying machine learning to inform our bidding behaviour and bidding strategies with DSPs. So we can identify and ultimately, our aim is to send the right bid to the right DSP at the right time in order to maximise the ROI on that bid as well. So it's underpinned with efficiency because you're not wasting bids going to DSPs, but it's informed by the historical insight that we have in that bidding behaviour. And that's really one thing that we do now, and we can see that is going to evolve quite quickly into pricing strategies and fully optimising beyond that as well. So it's this ever-changing, very fast-paced world of AI, which is obviously being used for the good so far. A question for really the whole panel is around how, if you've got some examples of real life, like case studies that have been underpinned or powered by AI that you would like to share. Do you want to start off, Laura?
Perfect, yeah. So I think one kind of like industry-wide example would be kind of the use of the word COVID as a keyword and how we've kind of seen it progress over time. So if you think of, a lot of advertisers put, COVID as a block, like a block word for their programmatic buys, but by using AI-powered segments, you can actually, take it a step further and harness that content and that, all those different types of publishers and content as they were, if they're contextually aligned with what you're trying to say. So again, if it's a positive article like a DIY, COVID activity for home or travel plans post-COVID, those are all examples, I think, of at a macro level, understanding how keywords are limiting and how, using AI-powered segments and targeting or avoidance can really unlock scale and unlock content for advertisers. With a specific programmatic agency, we also did a case study of using those types of context control segments, and these are also cookieless. So to the point of privacy, kind of a future-proof solution. And they found that, they had a 36% increase or improvement in click-through rate and 21% increase in cost per click. So an improvement, again, on both retention and recognition with advertisers, but also for their bottom line to have improvement. So I think there are a lot of efficiency plays that come with it. So when you're targeting better content, you're going to see the results as an advertiser and then also get more traction with the end user as well.
Matthew, any examples from your...
Yeah, we're not really involved in the transaction itself. We don't buy or sell data or media, but we inform those transactions quite significantly with the signals that we provide in a world where traditional identity signals, cookies, IDs, and MAIDs are slowly but surely deprecated. Our signals take an increased importance in the bidding strategy of our clients, right? Whether they decide to pass the right bid to the right buyer, or on the buy side, whether they decide to bid or not to bid on an impression. We play a role into that that flow of bid request. But on our side, the application of AI or machine learning are really on the processing and the recognition of devices. We have a variety. We work with a variety of signals. Sometimes we have a user who's authenticated, and so we have a hashed email address. Sometimes they haven't authenticated, but we have other signals that are passed to us by the publisher, such as IP address, page URL, timestamp of visit. And so it's how do we process those signals that are always different to be able to recognize or to guess with a high enough level of confidence that this device and that device belong to the same user, or this device on that site and that device on that site are actually the same device. And so it's really the processing of those information that allow us, and the use of artificial intelligence that allow us to give, on average, between 75 and 85% of the time, a stable ID to power the transaction, which then will inform the model, the bidding model of our clients, to make the right decision using another signal than the one they've been using for the past 20 years. So that's really how we play our role. It's not really I know you were asking for a practical example. Don't have a practical example, but that's as close as a practical example as I can get. And we see that when there is an ID, the bid becomes much more valuable for the publisher, and for the brand. And so that leads to 30 to 50, 60% lift in CPMs, bid CPMs. So that's kind of the outcome of having more signals involved in the bidding process.
Sure. Okay. Sarah, do you have any examples?
Yeah, I mean, I have many, but maybe I can just continue on the COVID topic and then the ID piece. So one around COVID, not that we really want to remember that time, but obviously there was quite a lot of restrictions around traveling. And one of our clients, which is Adina Hotels, part of the TFE Hotel Group, it's an Australian group, they only really recently started in the DACH region to really open up a lot of hotels. And then with COVID, obviously that's a really that was a really difficult time for them. But they kept being live with us, and what we were able to do is changing the keywords and the targeting based on the restrictions or allowance around travel. So there was a period, for example, where there was only business travels allowed around Germany, and we leveraged AI to really find that exact audience, and were able to still drive ROASes of over 5 during that period, which is incredible, and helped that hotel chain to really basically survive. And then maybe to throw in something else around more the future, around cookieless, and maybe something controversial, because I know you represent the ID part of it, but I think it's, to our opening point, it's very important to understand that putting all your eggs in one basket and hoping to, thinking that ID signals will be the solution in a cookieless future can be quite risky, just because there is, let's be honest, not that many ID signals currently in the bid streams already today. So that's why the technologies today really need to be able to work with multiple signals, right? And that's very difficult to do, and that's where you really need a good AI and machine learning technology. And who says that the EU Commission is not going to look into the ID solutions, closely next? So we need to be really use this as an opportunity to properly future-proof our technologies. And I think by leveraging AI, the way we are doing it and then continuing doing it is really the right way. A clear example for that is actually together with Zenit. It's a different team than Rob's team, but we are working together on the client Swarovski, which is like a big jewelry brand. Hope everyone knows them, but it's a big legacy brand. But what we're seeing today, the typical customer is purchasing really mobile web, and preferably on iPhone devices, using Safari browser, which today already, as we know, is, there's no third-party cookies in there. And what we are doing with all our campaigns currently, obviously it's Black Friday now, we're expanding into those environments, and partially there are markets where we are seeing 59% of conversions coming from those environments. So it's really important to already do that today, and that's how we are leveraging our machine learning.
That's amazing. Back to your point about the hotel during COVID. So how have you expanded on that, the learnings from that campaign, or that obviously working with that brand, into today's activities?
Yeah, so now we're kind of a similar strategy. We're using it a lot for the new hotel openings, and it's the same logic, but obviously with other keywords, working with other types of audiences. But I think that was a really good point, because obviously they already worked with us before, and they believe to a certain extent into programmatic advertising. But I think that really showed them the power that it has, and how quickly you have to be able to change your targeting and according to your customers. And there's definitely, don't want to go too much detail, but they have hotels that are really, they are specialized in apartment hotels, so it's perfect for families traveling, but they still want to have kind of a hotel experience, but also a kitchen. Also business travels, if you're traveling for like a week or longer and you want to have your own kitchen. Yeah, so it's clear, depending on the type, the district, the city that they're opening up, you know already what type of audience you're addressing. Is it more the business type of travels, because it's closer to the airport, etc., and so on. So that helped in many ways.
Yeah, that's great. It's great. Sorry, great example. Rob, do you have anything to add on that?
Apart from the work that we've been doing together already, with another team, granted. Well, yeah, I think as I described when we talk about auction mechanics, we're certainly using AI, machine learning, automation, whatever you want to call it, in pretty much every campaign we do. And yeah, whether that's the different turnkey solutions in each DSP, or whether it's building a more bespoke solution, identifying an effectiveness metric, creating like your own custom bidder. That's certainly like the work that we're developing with clients at the moment that's really stand out, and I'd say it enables you to really demonstrate value beyond just your trading specialism, and also like you can identify savings for the client. Like you actually, to the point of, is programmatic too expensive from last year? If you can demonstrate that you're buying better quality media for a lower price, well, that's both of the blockers that we discussed earlier. So, the example that we've got, without rolling out a case study on a slide behind me to present, we've been working with one of our financial services clients to do pretty much exactly that: identify an attention metric, which I believe was viewable time on screen, and we, by optimizing towards it through this model versus control, something like a 25-26% uplift for pretty much like almost half the cost from a CPM perspective. So yeah, very difficult to argue against like the success that we've got from it, and then presenting that back as savings, which basically essentially pays for the proprietary tool that you've built, and you're giving a client a competitive advantage, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, that's really interesting, isn't it? And it's about you're doing these now, this kind of testing now, and to be able to share that, amplify the results, and overcome some of those challenges that were identified in the survey of, are we getting the quality? Would be a great step. We've got a few minutes left, being waved at, but I wanted to just go around the panel and talk about some of the, obviously we talked about some very positive examples, but there obviously are some challenges we face today. So if we can run through what you think the challenges are, let's do that first, and then we'll look at perhaps a final word on opportunities. Can we start at the end, Laura?
Yeah, so I think one challenge with programmatic and AI in general is just generative AI that we've kind of talked about earlier as well. So I think we're coming up on an election year in the US, and a lot of just ongoing, the climate right now with a lot of different things going on. So I think that, generative AI with misinformation, MFA sites were noted earlier as well. So I think that for advertisers, programmatic moves very quickly, and so does AI. So making sure that you are using tools that can keep up with AI. So using AI-powered tools to kind of combat those, bad characters, if you will, is really important. So having an element of AI in your strategy to make sure you're not aligning next to that content, and also working with, of course, third parties and neutral, reviewers of misinformation, for example, I think is really important going into the new year, and thinking about AI and programmatic specifically.
Matthew?
I mean, we mentioned privacy earlier. I think this is the obvious challenge that we have to face, because right now the pillars of privacy, they're not that you cannot recognize people, right? That's not what the GDPR says. The GDPR says if you're going to recognize people, use personal data to recognize them. You have to get there. You have to be transparent about doing it, and you have to give them a choice, right? And all of the regulations out there, whether it's the multiple state regulations in the US, whether it's LGPD in Brazil, the upcoming DPDA in India, they're all based on those two pillars: transparency and control. And the problem with kind of automated processing of data is that you're losing a lot of the control. What we see in systems that are kind of working on recognition based on a black box algorithm on device recognition is that you're losing track of the individual data contribution to the model, which is an issue, because how do you exercise your right to be forgotten? How do you exercise your right to data access if your data has been boldened into a model and just spit out like this? So I think privacy compliance and how we're going to actually respect the letter of the privacy regulation or the data protection regulation, which is, again, not that you cannot recognize people, is that you have to ask them for permission and be transparent about doing it. How we're going to respect that is a question. And I think there's a second, maybe more philosophical question, maybe for a drink later, is thinking about the consequences of artificial intelligence. 200 years ago, the steam engine led to the Industrial Revolution. Today, artificial intelligence is leading to an intellectual revolution that is going to make a lot of intellectual jobs redundant. Like machines, industrialization of society made a lot of manual jobs redundant. 200 years ago, it was the secondary the secondary sector that evolved, and people went to the tertiary sector, services. Today, most people are employed in services in the tertiary sector, but there's no quadriary sector, fourth sector, right? And so what are we going to do with all of those people made redundant? How are we going to reinvent society? So I think it's not about AI directly, it's about the consequences of AI and how that's going to apply to much broader topics than just programmatic advertising.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's like the points you're making they're actually big fundamental points to solve across the industry, across everything, and not relating to AI, but it's super important when we're talking about development of AI. Yep. Final thoughts on challenges?
Yeah, I prefer to talk about the positives and opportunities rather than the challenges, but definitely with the new attention that this topic got and what's happening also with OpenAI and so on, it's questionable what regulations are going to come up and how that's going to impact everything. And I was in a meeting this morning and someone said the big question is AI going to be used for the good of humanity or then just for money? And we probably all know what way it's going to go, but that's things where it can throw everything into different direction.
Final words, Rob?
Closing remarks. Firstly, I'll take that drink later, Matthew. Maybe I'll skim over both the opportunity and the challenge. Let's call it a carrot-based stick. I feel like, over the next 12 months there could be, or maybe a bit longer, could be a bit of a divergence in market of how programmatic is perceived. We've already got a lot of talk around generative AI and MFA, kind of like weaning people away from programmatic, and then factor in black box targeting solutions, dynamic creative insertion into placements that you maybe didn't know were on your media plan. That's obviously the bad side of it. That's maybe advertisers will choose to invest into touch points which they're more familiar with, like traditional media touch points where quality in their mind is more assured. And then you've obviously got the carrot, which is what we would probably all support, which is lean in now. You've only got a few months while you probably can test your existing techniques against these new AI-driven, leverage these new AI-driven tools, use incrementality testing, regression-based attribution, really stress test it now. Because if you're not prepared, as we've all mentioned, like privacy, you're going to be caught in a real tough spot. So go for the carrot, not the stick.
Brilliant. Great advice.
I think what's really kind of encouraging is that if you compare, like we sleepwalked into social media 15 years ago and are only now discovering the impact on mental health, on the division in society, right, hate speech and everything. I think we're walking into AI with our eyes wide open. What happened over the weekend at OpenAI was apparently driven by ethical concerns and challenges and disconnect between the founding team and the board members. So it feels like it's been very, very early a topic of discussion, which I think is encouraging because we recognize that there are dangers and we're addressing them head on. And yes, everybody likes to speak about opportunity rather than challenge, but it's important to talk about the challenge. Otherwise, we're gonna end into the wall. So I think that's the silver lining here.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely have heard in the last 6 months talking about this, that there is a total stream of consciousness about making sure this is responsible, that it's ethical, that we could consider this, and also understanding that what we put in is what's actually going to be coming out, and so making sure that's a balanced view. Talking of balanced views, I couldn't moderate a panel on AI without asking for any commentary from ChatGPT on this. Suffice to say, unsurprisingly, the feedback was that AI is incredibly beneficial and important for programmatic advertising.
Shocking.
Really calling out all the points that we've discussed today. So we're in alignment, which is good.
He's only repeating what we've said in the past anyway. That's what it does, right?
That's what we've already inputted. Do we have time for questions? Is there anyone in the room or on the call?
We've got time for one question.
One question. There we go.
Hi, thank you. I'm Dirk from RTL in Germany. What I ask myself, or what's going around in my head, is if AI is doing the optimization of campaigns today, or is getting better in optimized campaigns today, what will be the future? Today I have a direct relation with my sales director of the agency. Maybe in the future, AI is doing this decision. So how will AI learn what is a good platform or a good publisher, what is a bad publisher? Would it be good to have a neutral database of publishers at IAB or whatever to show, or just let it learn from Wikipedia that RTL maybe has these Temptation Island shows, which is good content, but and then YouTube has even better content or whatever. This is what I ask myself. Do we have to provide more neutral information on publishers, on channels, on whatever, to train AI for the future? So where does it get its information? I don't know if you know any answer, but this is going around in my head to how can we improve here and just not let anyone else decide for us what information should be learned about our channels, about our media houses and whatever.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Anyone want to take a stab?
I think it raised the question of attribution and measurement, right? Because in the end, a good publisher is really dependent on what the brand wants and what the goals and the affinity with the brand, the messaging, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very relative.
And your best side might also be an AI, which decides what's good for the brand.
Yes, but good will depend on the results. And the AI will kind of help understand the results better. And so that's my point about like ideally you want to start your media plan completely wide open and just like slowly but surely restrict to the media owners that are best suitable for your brand performance, your target, your campaign attributes, whatever they are. They might be affinity, they might be awareness, they might be post-click conversion, God forbid. There's a range of performance metrics, but I think it's difficult to say like what is good, what is bad in absolute. And I think the AI will help us kind of get to that automation process actually better than a media planner who says, oh yeah, I know those guys, I don't know those guys, I'm going to work with them. So I think there you go, optimism again. There's kind of more rationality in the decision-making process that a machine can take, which hopefully will end up valuing the media owners that work better for the brand performance.
Yeah, I'd say it is difficult to just hang your hat on the data though. So for example, I was chatting earlier about automated bidding strategies when they first emerged. I remember viewable CPM was one of the options. So if you set a viewable CPM goal in the platform of £5, you could be buying some media at 100% viewability at £5, or you could be buying media for £1 at 20% viewability, still a viewable CPM of £5. You can probably guess what the platform did, right? So yeah, an AI model is only as good as like the inputs that you put into it, right? You need a human verification. I do agree with that. Yeah. And from inventory quality, yeah, again, you're probably looking at metrics at the moment, things like attention as a proxy for whether it's a suitable publisher or not. So I'd say, yeah, you probably are going to always need that human lens. Unless someone like a verification company, thankfully we've got Laura on the panel that might be able to inform us better.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that really is, I think, the benefit of using AI-based targeting or avoidance segments. So targeting towards content, not just thinking of, a list of publishers that are good or bad, but really what is on the page that is, is it a positives article? Does it talk about, things that you want to be seen next to or things that you want to stay away from? So really having more granular targeting or avoidance capabilities, again, powered by AI, are already in market. And I think those are great tools to, again, not do a blanket of like, you're good, you're bad, but really unlock scale for yourself and support good content. So having, again, that granularity of emotion, contextual relevance, brand safety, brand suitability, viewability, all of those I think are great tools to use AI in your strategy for different publishers.
Can you imagine that on the other side there might be also an AI who mimics this thing?
Yeah. I think it's your points are really valid, and we really kind of confirms, I guess, what we were saying of There will be AI to help optimize and measure, but there also needs to have that human element as well. There needs to be some sense checking along the way, and currently, our position, we believe that the human element is going to bring that. So it's something, as we said, if it's still conscious for us, and then we need to make sure it remains that forefront of the mind that this isn't going to replicate humans completely. We just need to get that balance and keep the sensibility.
Yeah, to your example of the TV shows, right? It's brand suitability. It's like subjective. As soon as it becomes subjective, then you do need that human touch to it to be able to point basically the AI into the right direction, right? Because some of your shows might be very suitable for some advertisers, and then others would be like, we don't want to be, anywhere near that show, and that's where you will still need humans in the end.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thanks for the panel. We'll leave now.
Thank you so much, guys. We're now going to move on to our final panel session of the day. We do have a limited number of mics, so there's going to be a bit of a handover sequence. So I'm going to attempt to fill the space, fill the void. So can I see some hands in terms of your businesses today? Who's actually using AI in their day-to-day business today? Okay. Stick them up higher. So I'm going to say that's maybe 50% of you. Okay. Who's doing it in creative? None of you. Who's doing it in campaign optimization? Okay. 25% of you. I'm guessing. Right. Don't hold me to these numbers. Who's doing it in terms of auction mechanics? Okay. And who's doing it in a completely different topic that I haven't mentioned and is happy to stand up and say what that is? Come on, one of you. One of you must. Yeah, go for it. Benjamin, how are you using AI today?
You need to for invalid traffic filtration, as well as audience modeling to be able to identify uniqueness of audience and create cohorts.
Okay. Do you want to repeat that again? Now you got the mic.
Yeah, I can repeat with the mic. So for invalid traffic filtration, as well as audience unique counting and modeling.
Okay, so verification, audience modeling, and what was the third?
Unique counts, like in podcasts, it's complicated to count uniques.
Okay, awesome. All right, I think we're ready. Thank you for humouring me as we filled the void. It now gives me great pleasure to invite Ben Geach, who is a consulting lead at Google, also a founding member of the Programmatic Trading Committee. 9 years, I believe, since you first started the Programmatic Trading Committee. So a big round of applause for Ben and his panel.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the third panel of the day. So as Nick said, I'm Ben, and I'm a consulting lead here at Google, and we are moderator for the final panel of the day. So this panel is going to focus on particularly around campaign optimization and the use of AI in measurement as well. I think very important topics for whatever part of the ecosystem we sit in. So we've had some wonderful content today, and just a couple of takeaways from me, which I think will be echoed potentially by the panel here and have some great examples, is that AI is not something new. We've been doing it as an industry in various means for many years, and there are some real practical ways that we can take away from that. So I'm going to get my panelists to introduce themselves in a second, but I'm also going to ask them to explain a little bit about how they've used AI personally, maybe give an example of how they've used it in a non-work sense. So I'll share mine first, and the photo on the wall behind me is not actually me. So this is not an actual photo. It's generated by AI using some sources online. So I'll leave it to your decision whether it looks realistic and maybe better than real life. I'm not sure. That's my tidbit of what I've used AI for to be able to generate profile pictures. So Over to our panelists. Please, share your name, company, and a personal AI moment.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Really great to be on this panel. My name is Claudia Rosa. I'm Head of Customer Success at Adform. For those that don't know, Adform, we're an European ad tech vendor, which was born as an ad server back in the day. We've been around a long time, but cover the whole life cycle, so DSP and also sales side. And I wish I'd taken your advice on my picture. I obviously did not use it, so that's what you get. And I also wish I was that one person when ChatGPT came out that spent the weekend writing a children's book and then using DALL-E for the imagery and then publishing it and making 20 grand out of it. But that wasn't me, sadly. Yeah. I'm a bit more basic, and I use ChatGPT to actually help me with a fitness event I'm going to be doing. So ChatGPT wrote for me the training plan week by week, which I thought was great. Otherwise, I would have to pay a specialist to do that at PT. So there you go. That's my example.
Amazing. Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wayne Tessie. I'm Group Director of Integrated Solutions at Double Verify. So my remit is programmatic, performance and attention across the EMEA region. I once got into a bit of a debate with a chatbot when it first came out. Being a Wayne from Essex, I thought it'd be interesting to kind of look and see, like, you know, what is the history of the name? And it actually turned out that Wayne is of Scottish descent. It means wagon maker, which I thought was quite interesting. I then got into like this debate with it where it actually tried convincing me to give up my job, become a wagon maker. Which was good. So I think, you know, if there is life after media, you'll probably know where to find me.
Cool. Hi, everyone. I'm Martina Thomaidou. I'm so happy to be here. I'm leading the data science team in Dataseat, which is now part of Ver Group. Both of those groups are doing privacy-first programmatic solutions. In Dataseat, we are focusing on contextual signals. So we are a DSP focusing on contextual signals, and with my team, the mission is to use those and optimize campaign performance through machine learning and AI. Now, in terms of the systems and all these really nice chatbots, I was super excited, especially November 2022 when we saw the rise of those. And a personal use that I have is I have created something like a mini app, which basically creates a paragraph, just a very simple, concrete paragraph, and acts as a motivation body. So the top 2 usages are for my little son, to basically motivate him, do anything, literally, he's a toddler. And the second thing is same as Clara, for motivation and fitness purposes, and give me motivation to go to the gym and eat more healthy, and so on.
Amazing, thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ryan Miles. I'm Director of International Marketing at Microsoft Advertising. As for my personal story, if you can't tell from the accent, I'm actually Australian. And so Mother's Day and Father's Day get me mixed up all the time because they're different dates. And I've got a 1-year-old at home, so we recently went through our first one of these on Mother's Day. We'd just been to Australia. We got back, and I was caught a little short-handed. I hadn't done anything. And so got in and I used Bing Copilot and quickly knocked out a couple of poems, one from my daughter, one from our dog as well, dug out some old frames from under the staircase, framed them up. Wife was none the wiser. I hope she's not watching or cat's out of the bag, but it saved me that day.
Fantastic. Some really good examples there and some ideas to keep for the future, I think, as well. Great. On to the questions then. So the first topic that we're going to cover is campaign optimization. So this used to be a somewhat manual process, very much human-driven. I wondered what experiences the panelists have about how this has changed with the recent advent of AI, and what's changed? Has it got better, or what can you do now that you couldn't do before? Maybe Wayne, I can turn to you first on that.
I think let's pick up on the theme of the day, which starts with AI is nothing new within ad tech. I think looking, at the speakers on the last panel, listening to the last keynote, AI's been around for over 2 decades, really, within our industry, and it's kind of really underpinning everything that we've been doing. We've just more recently started talking about it a lot more. So if we kind of look at the current iteration of AI, I would say there's always going to be room for human interaction. You're always going to need human eyeballs, on the activity and the optimization piece. But the current iteration of AI is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for us going forward. If I look at what DV's been doing over, the last couple of years, we were partnering with Cybids for a good 2 years before this current AI renaissance really kind of took hold and kind of came to the forefront. And, we acquired them back in Q3. And we did this because I think as a business, we understand that AI is really going to underpin everything that we do in the future around optimization of, media quality, of performance and of outcomes. And this is really what's going to drive the business forward for the agencies, the advertisers, the partners and the customers that we work with.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And Martina, on the data science side, is there advances that you've seen that have helped with campaign optimization?
So the key thing that AI brought and machine learning brought is scalability, efficiency, and speed. Now, 2 different things. First of all, indeed, the last year, November 2022, we saw the rise of generative AI. And what it does is through contextual, first of all, information. So a human being needs to provide the right context through prompt engineering, can generate a vast amount of text and or images. So certainly there is the potential. The potential is that we can generate images, product descriptions. Now, over the past 2 decades, from machine learning and data science perspective, we have seen the rise of autonomous bidding agents. This is something that we are using regularly in every lever of the campaign. So from audience segmentation, audience targeting, budget optimization, bidding strategies, we are using it everywhere. And we are leveraging, so far, I think, over the last decade, more the behavioral signals. But there is a shift. We are using more and more right now new alternative approaches, such as, of course, contextual signals. And I believe this is where we are going to see the future of AI being more there.
Great, and it shows the adaptive nature of as data sources change, you can then feed those as an input into optimization strategies. Makes a lot of sense. And then from Adform side, on Clara, what have you seen?
Sure. So I think a lot of it was covered in the previous panel, especially with Rob from Zenith giving us the history. And maybe to put it in context, that was incredibly helpful. And again, a trader back in the day would have been manually potentially optimizing CPM. When we introduced our DCPM algo, for example, we saw 70% of their time versus traditional methods being saved. And that really means with all of this AI, what's going to be really important is how will it also free up our time to do our jobs better and more creatively and be there, for example, with our clients and doing fun things. So that's super exciting. Yeah. Maybe what I'd like to add is the sophistication of algorithms. Again, we've got examples around attention metrics being pulled in. So for example, we are now able to optimize to audio, sound on and audio visual on completion. So that's a lot of variance to put into place when you also think about factoring in the user and the pricing. So again, the scalability, the amount of data that we have then leads to better outcomes and freeing up of traders. And maybe the final point from the last panel, a mention around scalability of IDs. So again, we really believe that there won't be one solution as part of the deprecation of third-party cookies, which, by the way, has been happening for the last 2 years. It's not the future, it's already now, because Apple, you've not been able to really bid on them unless you've got solutions in place for that and are able to do it in a cookieless way. So the future is here now. And we're seeing that because we work with multiple IDs, 40 plus first-party IDs, as well as a third-party cookie ecosystem, we're ingesting so many signals. So that's really where machine learning is helping us to ingest all of that data and then be able to factor that in as part of development algorithms and optimizations. Again, traders manually would not be able to do. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and that sort of time-saving stat is amazing, right? To be able to free up your time and have some room for innovation with clients, and potentially even just invest more time in being able to understand their business goals, so you understand what drives their business as well. It can only help build better campaigns. And on the topic of sort of campaign optimization, but moving more over to maximizing performance here, I'd love to understand, perhaps Ryan, you can give us an idea of how AI has enabled you to improve the performance of the campaigns and the ROI for the advertiser, which is, of course, so critical in being able to invest more in a platform.
Yeah, I think everyone's spoken to the tools themselves quite articulately, but yeah, if you zoom out for a second as well, the whole process of getting from brief and budget through to agency, if you use one, into the tech, the campaign, the data in the platform, get the data out, back to the client, make decisions, and it's a big chain, and there's lots of steps in between there. It's not just the data and the hands-on tools optimization itself, and I think AI plays a huge role in all those steps. And so an improvement on something all the way back at communicating with the client might have a huge optimization impact, because you can better articulate what you're seeing in the data, which is not something we always consider in this, and you also may be able to pull more compelling insights or data to back up that perspective as a trader, as a campaign manager. So I think there's a bigger play here. For us, we think about this in terms of co-pilots, and we've had the benefit of having some early access programs with teams like Dentsu Creative and WPP. And what we see is, universally, it's coming out 70% of people feel they're more productive. And that's across the spectrum. So it's not specifically about optimizing the campaign in the platform. Their whole work cycle is 70% more productive. And not only that, their work is better. 68% are like, I've improved my work. My output is better than it would have been. So you're getting this big payoff where you're doing better work more efficiently. And I know we've talked, I think the other panels in the presentation referenced that there's cost benefits on the media side in a very direct trading point of view. But if you think about how much you invest in head hours in the business and running, or agency retainers, or budget as a client, those savings are amplified all the way through the value chain as well. So that's really kind of a compelling way to think about AI. We get maybe stuck a little bit looking through the microscope on it, and zooming out, looking at the wider implications is really important as well, our operations as a business.
Yeah, it makes sense, both on the time saving, but also on the performance that then comes with it, by being able to spend time other ways, but also the automation there. Clara, is that similar to what you've been seeing in the market?
Yeah, so I think, again, like when it comes to ROI, I think what's exciting is what we can do now for clients with all of the different signals. And just another example is working with Scope 3. Again, we're able to be optimizing with clients like Audi, PC Componentes in Spain, on sustainability, as well as KPIs, which are around performance. So it becomes very exciting in terms of all the variables that you can factor in. And again, our job could become more interesting. I'm wondering whether those savings mean maybe a 4-day week for us, which would be great, maybe even less. But I think, again, there's a lot of positivity in that, and both for clients and for ourselves.
Makes a lot of sense. Great. And I think that moving on to a slightly different topic, data is kind of the fuel to the engine of AI, right? So I'd love to hear some thoughts about how data is driving AI solutions, and tell us a little bit about what the right data, or maybe even what the wrong data is to fuel AI. Martina, maybe I can start with you.
I really like this perspective, the right data. So the most important thing is to have the right input into all of these innovative, let's say, algorithms. So if you don't have reliable, robust data, the results are going to be noisy. The typical data science process is a feedback loop. And it begins with data collection from diverse sources. In our case, what we use is internal DSP log data, around contextual signals, respecting, of course, the privacy of the users, as well as external sources that could help us identify genres, subgenres of certain apps, and help us understand the categorization of them. So we have the initial data collection phase. Then it's very crucial to have this kind of, and this sometimes even 70 or 75% of the work, the data preprocessing, the feature engineering, the preliminary exploratory data analysis before going into the model development, the model deployment. So there are several machine learning and statistical techniques in order to fight things that we have seen in the ad tech industry, like extremely balanced, let's say, data sets into one class. Once we do find them, we proceed with the model development. And basically, we are experimenting with state-of-the-art algorithms. In the case of, for example, bidding strategies, we use more the notion of the supervised learning approach. So, for example, we might be experimenting with gradient boosting, Bayesian approaches. And in general, all of those are a feedback loop. So wearing the data scientist hat, I see a couple of patterns, see some data, let's say, patterns. It's very crucial to collaborate and understanding this data with cross-functional partners, with product teams, with business, with commercial teams. An outlier that I might see as a data scientist in the data, or an extremely high percentile of behavior, I might say, oh, this is an outlier. I might completely ignore this data point. And I might have a domain expert explain to them, no, this is, for example, a whale in the mobile gaming industry, so you should include this data point in your data set. So it's a feedback mechanism, a feedback loop to always correct, let's say, your approaches with the data.
I love that approach, and so true for many innovations within our industry. It's like a test and learn approach, right? To be able to feed stuff in, be able to see how it works, and then adjust it as you go forward makes a lot of sense. Wayne, is that what you've been seeing?
I think Martina's probably a hard act to follow on that question, being a data scientist. I think from my perspective, AI is needed, in any multivariate situation when it comes to programmatic. If you think about the weighting that's needed for multiple data points and data sources, a human being just doesn't have the capacity to, make those choices, make those optimizations, like a machine would with machine learning. If we look at kind of AI at the moment and what it's doing, I think going back to the questions that everyone has at the moment, whether or not it's going to take over all of the different functionalities and all of the decision making, I think, we're a little bit off from that at the moment. I think, there's still a way to go on that, and I think, there is a bit of worry unnecessarily around that. But I think, it's coming in the future, and I think, as we progress, AI is just going to evolve more and more when it comes to kind of those data decisions that, we've been making with the human touches, but also I think it's going to be a lot more streamlined and a lot more seamless as those integrations between the different partners and the decisions, that publishers are having with agencies, etc., as we go forward. So, for me, I think streamlined operations is kind of key.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to change topics slightly here to around creative and personalisation. So I think we all know that creative is critically important to how it resonates with the user and what reaction you get from them. I'm sure we can recall adverts that we've seen in our youth that either videos or jingles or imagery that really resonate and stick with you. I wonder if there's any examples of how AI is transforming ad creative by tailoring the content and making it more personalised, perhaps, to individuals?
Happy to, maybe with the theme of today, maybe start with the fact that kind of personalisation of creative has been around for a long time. And I know we're talking about it today with Gen AI, and it's definitely, I think we can say it's creative on steroids because it gives us an opportunity to really augment what we can do today. I see we're like end of day, so maybe show of hands. Who here has used for their campaigns DCO, Dynamic Creative Optimization? Right, so
good
two
for you.
people out of a room of, let's say, 40 people. My math is terrible. So that gives you an idea that actually DCO has been around for so long and it's still unexploited. So maybe the challenge, this question is a crawl, walk, learn, a crawl, walk, run approach where clients are still not embracing DCO. So now we're kind of moving to DCO on AI. So in a way, we still need to educate and understand why are clients not using dynamic creative optimization, firstly. But yeah, to that point, I think, again, we've got examples where maybe the fact that we've got now ChatGPT or DALL-E, we can use these tools and within agencies or clients, they get really excited about being able to use them. And so we've got examples where we've got an A/B test with one of our clients in the US, where they've been able to feed ChatGPT headlines and power it with our dynamic creative optimization with the ad server, and therefore serve headlines and lead to 167% higher CTR versus the kind of A/B test, the control group, which is fantastic. But again, like maybe the question to everybody here in the room is, why are we not adopting dynamic creative and what's stopping it? Hopefully with AI and with this also being in the press pretty much every day, it will accelerate the fact that there's a lot that can be done with creative already. Let's put it in front of clients. Let's make them have really powerful ads that will lead to great outcomes. Maybe the question should have been how many use static creative, but maybe that's I'm sure there'll be a few hands up.
That's it. I think that's a really good point, and it's maybe it's a confidence thing as well, right, within the market. Ryan, I don't know if you've got experience of this and how it's worked or not worked.
Yeah, I think two areas come to mind here. One is an example following on with where Clara was going with it and DCO. Production is, for anyone who's run really large media campaigns and all the channels and all the formats, all the variation, if you're particularly on the media side of the fence, which I've been for a long part of my career, you turn to the creators and go, I only need 150 variations of this, and this, and that's just the social part of the campaign. Here's the display one. I need another 250 of these, but I need 10 seconds, 15, etc. And they just freak. And then the production team come with the bill and you go, oh my God, it's 3 times as much as we're investing in the media. We'll have to rethink and we dial everything back. And then you've also got the e-commerce side of that, your destinations, if you're a retail brand or a travel brand and you're kind of selling through online. There's a great story I heard from a brand recently, and it was about e-commerce. A really strong insight that when you shoot product and show it in a lifestyle setting or on location setting versus in a studio, conversions like 3 or 4 times. The problem is it's really expensive, really hard, really time-consuming to do all those shoots. Bring in AI. And the generation, and it allowed them to actually go further than they ever could, because they realized if you were shooting in a part of the country that was sunny and you showed a pair of sneakers with someone by the beach, it's sunny, but you showed that to someone who was in a really wintry, cold location, you lost some of that benefit. Bringing in AI, not only now can you put every product in a on-location situation, you can do multiple locations for the same product, and just the conversion benefits, they saw that, and the bottom line revenue benefits were immense. And it's starting to go even further with that, where, okay, you still need a model, you still need a studio. There's use of synthetic models now happening where it's actually fully AI, that's even faster, more cost efficient. But it's got a long way to run, and that can be from ads all the way through to the full consumer journey. So I think that's really interesting and compelling. That's kind of the most cutting edge I've seen anyone apply it, and it really requires a rethink of your whole production system and a very kind of big, ambitious play in the space. Coming back to something a bit easier to adopt, I talked about some of our early access examples before, and we've been doing some work with Dentsu Creative who've been using this, and just putting it into your workflows as a tool. And I was interested, they came out of their early access program and with a number of other brands and clients we had using it. They came out saying 50% more, 57% more creative, because a lot of the drudgery was taken out of it. And actually one of the real benefits they loved was taking AI and things like image generators and text to image and iterating and designing with clients live on a call. Usually they take a brief, they go away, they come back 2 weeks later, like, hey, let's punch that in. Let's see what that spits out. Oh, it's not quite the direction we want to go. Let's go a bit further this way. And they felt that was really liberating. They got through a couple of weeks' work really fast and explored dozens more territories they could never afford to go down because it cost time, it cost money. And so things like that are going to be really interesting about that workflow where human creatives play the pivotal role, but they can just kind of turbocharge their own output and their own work and spend way more time doing what they're really good at, letting the AI do the hard yards. I think that's a really interesting application as well.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and I think that it's a real leveler for small business as well. You mentioned there that it's very expensive to get product photography, for example, done, and yeah, I can think of a brand that we worked with, which is a relatively newcomer to the market, who used actually a phone camera to be able to take product photography, but used AI to be able to scrape the background and remove it, and then placed it on beaches, on fields, on all different aspects to be able to make a really realistic product image that would have cost tens of thousands of pounds to be able to produce. So a real leveler there.
Or do headshots.
Sustainability.
Yeah, exactly. Fantastic. So the final question that I have for you is around campaign measurement and attribution. That's been touched on in other panels as well. Is if you could sort of briefly give me your sort of 30 seconds thoughts about how AI could address the challenges in measuring success of programmatic campaigns. I know that's a tall ask to do that in 30 seconds, but I'm looking for the bullet points here. So Martina, maybe we could start with you.
Okay, so probabilistic versus deterministic attribution, I would say, key challenge.
Yeah.
Very data-hungry systems, but very fragmented environments. We need this kind of consolidation to surpass privacy thresholds with Scan, with Google Privacy Sandbox, with Apple Scan. So it's very challenging from one side to trust the data that we see, and on the other side to be able to have this very granular level of measurement and attribution with this kind of new, let's say, methodologies. And AI and machine learning, they have methodologies that can help us out with extrapolation of the right metrics and signals. I will stop here. I know it's more than 30 seconds. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wayne?
I think we need to be very meticulous about what we mean regarding success. If we look at kind of what we see out in the ecosystem, we still see a lot of, CTR, CPC, CPA campaigns for lower funnel attribution, but we're seeing a lot more complex metrics emerging, such as, quality CPMs, attention CPMs, QA CPMs for kind of mid to top funnel attribution. I think, tying that level of complexity back across the user journey, it is a challenge, especially when we're looking across the whole ecosystem, across the buy side and the sell side. I think, what we've tried to do as an organisation is, put our wager on Sybase and say, this is going to take the complexity out of it, and it's going to allow those that partner with us to take the kind of data sets that they love, like purchase data, and tie it back seamlessly across their optimization going into the future.
Amazing. Thank you. And Clara?
Do the whole day.
Absolutely.
Bullet point, I think what's not been said. So really today what we're seeing is a shift, the last few years, actually a couple of years, with clients and agencies using metadata, like log files, to then really build attribution models. So really what I would like to leave everyone here with is that it's really important for the advertiser in conjunction with the partners to own that attribution model, because the clients need to have full transparency into that. And so AI, to Martina's point, has got a real role in terms of extrapolation of data, because again, signals are going away. There's a lot of data points that need to be pulled in, but then there needs to be transparency on how that model is actually built, and the advertiser really needs to own that. Maybe controversial point of view for the end of the day. Yes, and I think that also we need to work as an industry. There, again, as we also enter omni-channel as a reality that will become more and more developed, industry-backed initiatives such as Origin are really critical. problem of measurement has really been around since the beginning of really having radio, TV, and now digital. So I think it's a problem that's hard to solve for, but the industry can come together to work and collaborate and make sure we can make sense of the fragmentation we see.
Amazing, yeah. I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. And a good point to end on is that to solve these problems for measurement, we can only do it together as an industry as well, because there are so many different players within the industry, and it's so important to be able to combine that. Great, thank you so much. So I think we've got time for one question, if there is one in the audience there. Great, if you just wait for the microphone to come over to you, we'll make sure that those on the live stream can hear you.
Yeah, so thank you. My name is Alberto. I work at Quantcast. So yeah, we do work with AI. And by the way, yeah, your picture looks amazing. So,
better than real life or not? No, you don't have to answer that.
That's great. And actually made me think about how AI can help to identify audiences in the best way possible. And talking about measurement, one thing that when you didn't mention, but I'm sure that you're very aware of, is the CO2 PM. The cost of serving 1,000 impressions, cost in terms of CO2 emissions, right?
Yeah.
So with that in mind, and knowing that, of course, third-party cookie deprecation is kind of like removing focus from the next issue that we're going to be facing as an industry, which is sustainability, or we're already facing. I would like to ask your thoughts about how embracing AI can actually help in creating an industry that eventually becomes more sustainable and fuels a more sustainable media industry.
We haven't really, I know we've touched on sustainability a little bit today. Double Verify, obviously, we work very closely with Scope 3, so we know that 1,000 impressions equals like 1 tonne of carbon emissions. How do we tie that back to AI? I think where we haven't really got to yet as an industry is kind of that balance between sustainability and campaign performance, because there is that kind of burning question is, can you have both? If you look at branding campaigns, yes, you think it's probably going to be quite easy to make that balance. But at what point are advertisers, the agencies that represent them, sorry, I know Zenith is in the room somewhere, at what point, do we start sacrificing performance for carbon neutrality? We all want to work towards it. What we're seeing is, every major RFI that comes up for the last 6 months to a year is including sustainability as a key indicator of what we can do from a measurement perspective, but also, they want to balance that with, this is what we're looking to achieve from a performance perspective, and we need to be able to illustrate that. And I think right now we can measure it. That's not a problem, but we need to kind of work out, how does AI fit into that picture from an optimization perspective? Because, can you tell an AI, that we want to balance carbon neutrality with performance, but it also has to be within an acceptable range of CPM. There are going to be some things that aren't, physically doable. And also we have to look at kind of the downstream for, publishers, exchanges. How is it actually going to affect them? What is it going to mean to their business as well? Because we as an industry, I know there's a few people from IS in here, DV as well. There was for many years issues, and friction between the publisher side and the verification side, and we've gone a long way to try and fix that. And it's not an issue that we want to accidentally kind of reignite out in the ecosystem. Lots to think about and unpack.
Absolutely, thank you. Excellent. All right, thank you so much to our panellists today for sharing your insight and knowledge. And yeah, round of applause for our panellists. Right, thank you.
Okay, we're almost at the end of our last VPD for the 2023. And what an amazing event it's been. I'm sure you'll agree there's been lots of interesting discussion. I'd like to say a big thank you to everyone here who's made time out of their day to come and listen and engage. To everyone at home or in the office who's joined via the live stream. But those to us who joined in person, I want to say a big thank you and a clap to our host, Google, who made all of this possible, from the refreshments, and there's more refreshments, I should say, so please stay for those refreshments and a little bit of networking at the end. Yeah, I'd also like to say a big thank you to our Programmatic Trading Committee for helping with the content of this event. We always try and come together to decide the topics and the panels, and as always, the Programmatic Trading Committee delivered by suggesting we focus on AI and what it means in programmatic advertising. I also want to say a big thank you to all of our speakers for giving up their time, sharing their knowledge and views on the important topics that we've discussed and debated today. I'm sure many of you, of our attendees, will have taken an idea or more away that we use to improve the way their own business uses, engages or thinks about AI. And finally, and definitely by no means least, I want to say a big thank you to Helen Massard, Amy Mazzola and Liz Haynes from IAB Europe for pulling all of this together. And delivering yet another great, successful VPD. And the event recording is going to be shared on the website over the next few days, so do keep a lookout for that, as well as the attitudes to programmatic advertising report. And that's it. That's a wrap. Please do stay for drinks and chats. There's lots of drinks next door. Thanks, everyone.